Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Quarbit, and welcome back to another breakdown of some of the new features coming to the 1.31 Southeast Asia update and the Leviathan expansion. Today's topic will be all of the nations east of Indochina, starting from the west and moving towards the east. This includes the nations in Malaya, Indonesia, and the Philippines. If you're curious about the changes that are coming to Indochina and Burma, then of course I made a video covering all of the details for those nations back in September. That video is still perfectly up to date, so I suggest you go back and give it a watch. The link for that will be in the description and in the comments, so go check that out after you're done watching this video. Now if you enjoy this kind of video, then you can let me know by leaving a like and subscribing, that way I know what kind of content to focus on. Without further delay, let's begin with the Malay Peninsula and the island of Sumatra. First, let's talk about the tags and the geographical changes here. We can see that 4 new provinces have been added into mainland Malaya, turning both Patani and Kedah into 2 province minors instead. Malacca has also been split, with the Kingdom of Pahang and the Sultanate of Kelantan now independent. The island of Sumatra has also gone under drastic changes from the version we have currently. You'll firstly notice that the center of the island is now completely impassable, to reflect how difficult it is to march armies through the hostile jungle landscape. Among a complete rework of the island's provinces, there are now 4 brand new independent tags, along with Aceh being independent from the game's start. The Buddhist kingdoms of Baros and Indrapura now sit next to Pakaruyung on the southwestern banks, while the east is populated by the sultanates of Delhi, Siak, and Jambi. Palembang remains as the final Hindu kingdom, now with an extra province under their control. We've also received a number of mission trees for the region, so let's start with Moluccas. Luckily for me, Paradox has saved me the trouble of highlighting different sections of this tree. The missions in blue and green are available for all Malay nations, other than Majapahit, which has its own unique tree. The missions in purple are available after forming Malaya, and the missions in red are unique to that country. So when we go over the mission trees for the other Malay nations, keep in mind that they will have more missions than what's shown on screen, but we will have already covered them. Like many other mission trees in this update, conquest will be done through subjugation. If you subjugate Pahang, they will get a ruler of your dynasty, reduced liberty desire, and will change to your religion. You will then have to dominate the peninsula by establishing your foothold across the strait in Sumatra. Malacca also no longer starts as a tributary of Ming. However, by sending an emissary to the emperor, you can re-establish your relationship with the Empire of China. By befriending Champa, you not only unlock one of their missions, which allows them to convert to Sunni, but you also get a subjugation CB against their rival Dai Viet. By fielding a larger army than both Siak and Majapahit, Siak will recognize your show of force and will become your vassal willingly. Subjugating Sumatra will likely require you to own or have subjects own the majority of the island. Developing Malacca and creating buildings can upgrade its center of trade to level 3 for free. The requirements for loyal subjects aren't given, but will provide a rather powerful permanent minus 10% liberty desire in subjects for the rest of the game. Destroying Majapahit by getting a foothold on Java and removing them from existence will grant you the Malacca Campaign CB. This powerful CB is a permanent subjugation CB against all Malay culture group nations at 25% war score cost. While none of the other mission groups are mentioned in any of the dev diaries, their requirements are rather self-explanatory from their titles. In green are the missions focused on stability and maritime ordeals. In blue are missions which focus on boosting trade good production in specialized locations where they are abundant. And in purple are missions which seek power beyond Indonesia, and keeping out those who do not belong there. Malacca will also be seeing a revamp of their national ideas, changing slightly towards a subjugation game rather than some of the production and colonization bonuses that they have in the current version. The next nation we have is Aceh, nicknamed the Porch of Mecca. Aceh's missions and ideas are shared with Pasai, and follow their historical conquests of Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula. By completing the Porch of Mecca mission, you will be able to propagate religion in the trade node at only 35% share rather than 50%. You'll also gain access to the unique Sword of Islam CB, allowing you to force religion even on heathens so long as they are of the Sumatran culture. This CB is fascinating as it actually evolves over time, granting access to its use on Javanese, Sundanese, Moluccan, and Sulawesi cultures as you progress through this branch of the mission tree, until eventually with the final mission it will be available to use against any neighboring heathen nations. Hindu and Buddhist nations in the Malay culture group also have the decision to convert to Sunni peacefully if it's the majority religion in their nation, so you can decide to convert other nations through trade or through war. Aceh will also be receiving a new set of ideas and traditions with powerful bonuses such as 2% missionary strength, minus 10% province war score cost, 15% naval morale, and minus 10% technology cost. Moving on to the last nation for which we have a revealed mission tree, we have the Pirate Republic of Palembang. Palembang, once the capital of the Srivijaya Empire, has missions focused on retaking their lost lands. Starting by filling your naval force limit will grant permanent claims on Siak and Jambi-controlled provinces. Taking the Orang Laut privilege, something I'll touch on a little bit later, and conquering some of northern Sumatra will boost your naval tradition. The arrival of the dragon ships will reward your conquests with heavy and light ship cost reduction and heavy and light ship combatability, and conquering 4 more provinces in the east while having 2 powerful admirals will grant you access to the legendary Chinese pirate admiral Chen. The path on the right focuses on conquests in Java, granting cores on some of the land required to restore the Srivijaya Empire. Doing so by owning all of Sumatra and Java will reward you with stability, some monarch points, and a permanent minus 10% stability cost modifier. Finally, for this region, nations with their capital in Malaya will have access to the previously mentioned Orang Laut Alliances privilege, which is for the merchant guilds. This provides a powerful 25% domestic trade power bonus. Now let's move on to the next region, Java. Many new provinces have been added to the island, as well as a new tributary tag, Blambangan. Bali has also been released as a tributary state as Majapahit rather than a part of the empire. There's a lot of flavor to get into here, so let's not waste any time. Majapahit is a dying empire in 1444, once spanning nearly all of maritime Southeast Asia. All that remains are the tributary states of Bali, Blambangan, and Palembang. Majapahit starts out in 1444 with a unique disaster, which increases all power costs, reduces the monarch lifespan, and increases liberty desire in subjects. Every succession will also spawn new pretenders, which can be a blessing if used correctly, but will most likely be a hindrance. Certain events will also increase subject liberty desire, and subjects will automatically become independent if they get too rebellious. After dealing with all of that for a while, Majapahit will be approached by Sunni traders, offering a large sum of cash in exchange for the conversion of a few of your provinces. Rejecting this offer penalizes your diplomatic reputation and trade power. Also, if enough provinces end up flipping to Sunni and your legitimacy isn't high enough, then a Sunni successor state can break off via event. In the worst case scenario, Majapahit fractures into 3, and it's basically game over. However, through your mission tree, it is possible to save this sick empire and restore it back to the height of its prosperity. Majapahit's tree is the most unique that we'll see today. The first 4 missions tie in with the disaster. Demanding loyalty, restoring order, and protecting the faith will prevent liberty desire events, and breakaway states will stabilize the spread of Islam, and it will end the succession crisis. Preventing the collapse will end the disaster and provide a permanent +1 relations. One thing to note before getting into the rest of this mission tree is that Majapahit receives a unique evolving CB much like that of Aceh's. This time it's a version of the subjugation CB that only has a 25% war score cost discount, as opposed to the regular subjugation 50% war score cost discount, and can be used against any Malay culture group nation. Eventually, you'll be able to use it against all nations in the Chinese culture group as well, and after that, without restrictions. Let's start with the Enforce Loyalty mission, which will convert all of your tributaries into vassals. If used correctly, I think this has the potential to be absolutely broken, but we'll have to try it out ourselves to find out. The missions branching on the left and middle are those which improve your unique CB. Eventually, it will allow you to use it on any nation in the world once the final mission is complete. The Chakravarti mission unlocks the Chakravarti government reform, which grants plus 10 max absolutism and plus 1 monarch admin power, among other unrevealed benefits. The Candy Shrines unlocks a new Hindu deity, the Buddha. Choosing the Buddha as your personal deity grants plus 2 tolerance of heathens and minus 10% advisor costs. The Porch of Mecca is a particularly fascinating mission. Controlling the Asset area and spreading your religion there allows you to use the Propagate Religion trade policy, even not as a Sunni nation, and other Propagate religions will not affect your provinces anymore. The Eastern campaigns and following missions add permanent province modifiers to various uncolonized provinces that make them much easier for you to colonize. Think something a little similar to the Treaty of Tordesillas. The final mission in that path awards a permanent bonus to colonial range and trade efficiency. Restoring the fleet opens up a path to conflict with Ming. Disrupting the trade there will permanently increase your naval morale, blockade efficiency, and most importantly, blockade impact on siege. The following mission, the Great Blockade, requires you to blockade the entire coast of China and will grant you permanent claims on the coast, which is pretty crazy. The missions on the right side are default Malay culture ones that I mentioned previously. Majapahit also has a powerful new set of ideas and traditions, including minus 15% aggressive expansion, minus 10% liberty desire in subjects, 2% missionary strength, 10% trade efficiency, a free colonist, 10% army morale, 10% heavy ship combat ability, plus 1 yearly naval tradition, minus 15% advisor cost, and minus 15% diplo annex cost. And yes, I really did just name every single idea because every single one is just that good. Turns out Majapahit's gonna end up having some of the best non-military ideas in the entire game. Now, Majapahit isn't the only nation occupying the island of Java. Sunda, the rival power in the west, has their own unique portion of their mission tree. To start off, you can consider swapping religions to Sunni. Doing so will convert several of your provinces. Choosing to remain Hindu will grant you a permanent plus 1 tolerance of the true faith and 1% missionary strength. Developing new cities requires increasing the development in 3 of your provinces to 20. You can then use that mission to fire an event that lets you pick a new capital. Whichever one you pick will gain 6 dev, and Kalapa will be renamed to Jayakarta. To rebuild the Candy Temples, you must have at least 15 temples, and an ally that is the Buddhist faith. Doing so will unlock the Buddha personal deity that we mentioned before. Improving rice production will unlock the improved irrigation, an estate privilege that reduces the dev cost in grain provinces by 10%. The legacy of Bubat can require you to guarantee Majapahit. There is apparently another way of completing it, but we're not told about what it is. Completing the mission will allow you to vassalize Majapahit. If you manage to conquer all of Java, you will get a free admin policy for the rest of the game, which is immensely powerful. And finally, by conquering Lampung, you will get subjugation CBs against all nations on the island of Sumatra. Although not as powerful as Majapahit, Sunda is no pushover when it comes to missions. And we're not quite done here yet, because even Bali has a few missions of their own. Ending your tributary status under Majapahit will grant you a free colony on the island to your east. Completing said colony allows you to continue settling with another colony and grants plus 25 yearly settlers for the rest of the game. If Majapahit is conquered or subjugated, you can get a massive minus 80% advisor cost for 20 years when the refugees arrive. It also grants permanent claims on Eastern Java, which you can use as your springboard towards claiming the riches of the island for yourself. Next, let's focus on the islands of Borneo, Sulawesi, and the Moluccas. Immediately noticeable are the 3 new tags populating Borneo. The Hindu kingdoms of Sambas, Barao, and Banjar are now represented in 1444. Along with them come a few new provinces, especially in the south. On the island of Sulawesi, we see the most concentrated changes so far, with 5 additional provinces and the new animist kingdom, Borneo. Although there are no new map changes coming to the Moluccas, Ternate and Tidore now have a monopoly on the new cloves trade good, which has a base price of 8, making it by far the best trade good in the game prior to coal. Now let's go over the mission trees, starting with Brunei's. Brunei's mission tree focuses on uniting Borneo under their rule and conquesting the Philippines. It's a rather straightforward tree, nothing too special or intricate. If you can manage to impress Sulu and Manila, you can vassalize them, even if they would normally refuse the offer. Many other nations also add province modifiers for certain uncolonized provinces to make them faster for colonization. Brunei has also received a new set of ideas and traditions, including powerful modifiers such as 10% land morale, 20% galley combat ability, 15% naval morale, 10% trade efficiency, and minus 10% liberty desire in subjects, making them a rather powerful naval force to be reckoned with. The only other mission tree we have so far in this region is the one shared between Tidore and Ternate. Firstly, you'll have to destroy your rival and secure dominance over the cloves trade. Doing so will reward you with an event that lets you select a province to colonize. Completing further colonies will eventually reward you with a permanent colonist and minus 50% native uprising chance. If you become the strongest trade power in the Moluccas node and build to your force limit, you'll get permanent claims on Sulawesi, which you'll be encouraged to conquer. Before moving on to the Philippines, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the formable nation of Malaya. The formation requirements have gone under a few changes, now requiring you to own 40 provinces in the Malaya or Indonesia regions, as well as several specific provinces that depend on your religion. Upon forming Malaya, you can choose to rename your country using the same mechanics that the Kingdom of God uses. You can always choose between Nusantara and Malaya, but some unique naming options open up under different requirements. Having the Srivijaya dynasty allows you to choose the name Srivijaya, and if you form Malaya as Majapahit, you can name yourself the Majapahit Empire, which is a nice touch. Now let's move on to the last region for today, the Philippines. Oddly enough, you'll notice that the Philippines have had exactly 0 map changes and no new tags added. The only thing to cover here are some new mission trees. Tondo and Matias receive unique branches of their own while sharing one between them. Tondo's unique branch involves diplomacy and trade while granting a couple of claims. Growing Strong will grant the provinces of Laguna and Mindoro 25% defensiveness once you build forts on them. Gaining control over the Queen's Channel will grant Tondo a massive 50 trade power in the Philippines node, which in the early game is huge. Befriending Majapahit will grant you some extra diplo power and +1 diplomatic reputation. If you remove your tributary status under Ming, you'll get some legitimacy, admin power, and some claims on the coast of China. Madias's unique branch has just 4 missions. All the ships of Aklan requires having at least 8 galleys, 90% of the naval force limit filled, and an admiral. It'll reward you with 5% naval morale, 5% heavy ship cost decrease, and 10% light ship cost decrease. Going back home will grant you permanent claims on Borneo after owning 10 Philippine provinces. The Book of Maractas will grant 100 of each mana point and 1 stability after the invasion of northern Borneo. The branch shared between the two consists of 6 missions, which encourage the conquest of the inhabited parts of the Philippines. It also grants an interesting opportunity to conquer uncolonized land as well. Now, there are rumors about there maybe being a Formable Philippines tag, but we haven't gotten anything confirmed yet. We might have to revisit the Philippines another day if more information is revealed. But for now, that's all we have for today. I'll come back next time with more information on North America, Oceania, or the quality of life changes. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is Quarbit signing off, and as always, have a fantastic day. I'd like to take a second to thank all of the patrons we have for the month of February, starting with those we have in the General tier: Quiet Guy, Brennan Arsenault, Ben Greenhagen, Torvalved, and Dire Avenger. Those we have in the Prince tier: Snow Raven and Rockbox 2020. Those we have in the King tier: Chewy Shoot and Natsuki. In the Elector tier we have TFLJ Martis, and in the Conqueror of Worlds tier we have The Watcher. It really does mean a lot to me, so thank you guys so much for choosing to financially support the channel. Really, I just can't thank you guys enough.